Maskani, everyone. This is Professor Rahh coming to you straight out of Compton. I'm Professor Emeritus, California State University, Long Beach, along with Rashaki Maskani, the founder of the Community Education Network, which provides us this space to have our Zoom conference and think tank and community forum from the standpoint of just speaking about critical issues that affect the African American community and the world African community. And we want to thank Brother Mshinda, who's straight out of Louisiana, holding down the South, keeping the young people in line and dealing with all the critical issues that comes with being in the South from a historical and contemporary standpoint. And again, we want to thank the listening audience or those that view this. We're just trying to do the best we can to make a contribution to do what Malcolm X said that we should do as a people, and that's think for ourselves. In other words, the oppressor cannot be our teacher. The mass media can't be our teacher because the oppressor controls the mass media, the major network. But we have to sift out what is real, and that's what we do on the Conscious Corner. We critique the news and give it an Afrocentric perspective. Tonight we're going to talk about a number of issues, and hopefully that we have a good response from Rashaki Maskani and Brother Mshinda, and see what discussions they want to raise also. But the number one thing we want to talk about Cornel West, who's deciding to throw his hat in the ring for the president of the United States. Cornel West is one of our outstanding advocates and social libertarian from the standpoint of being, he supported Bernie Sanders in the last election. And at the same time, he, for the, African-American socialist standpoint of believing that, the government is to serve the people and not the people serve the government from the standpoint of the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. So Cornel he's an author, he's an advocate, he participated in many demonstrations for social justice. And he's just a good brother. That's a picture of me and him at the African American Culture Center, where he was our guest speaker, and he presented me an award at the conference that came about. I'm gonna get that picture and show it to Brother Rashaki so we can put it on. But that's the picture at the African American Culture Center. But we had a major conference, and I was awarded an award, and Cornel presented it to me. We had a deep discussion that evening about the various issues. He's well-rounded. He flew in town just to come to that commitment that he made through the Culture Center that he would speak there. And he flew all the way from New York, I believe, straight to, and then he flew right out. So we deeply appreciate his commitment to the struggle. Rashaki, could you play that presentation where he announcing his candidacy?
Okay. Sister Linda is here too, Professor Rahh.
Okay, I'm glad, Sister Linda. I just got to talking to her, Reginald Muhammad, about reparations and giving some discussions out here with various groups, and we talked about a strategy. But go ahead, Rashaki.
All right.
We're going to get some feedback on what people think about it.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Well, the 2024 presidential race is becoming more crowded. Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie and former Vice President Mike Pence have both joined the Republican race. Meanwhile, the philosophy professor and civil rights activist Cornel West has announced he's running for president as a candidate with the People's Party. In a short video released Monday, Dr. West criticized both the Democratic and Republican parties.
We're not talking about hating anybody. We're talking about loving. We're talking about affirming. We're talking about empowering those who have been pushed to the margins. Because neither political party wants to tell the truth about Wall Street, about Ukraine, about the Pentagon, about big tech.
U.S. announcement surprised many political observers. In 2008, he endorsed Barack Obama, but later became a vocal critic of the Obama-Biden administration. In 2016 and 2020, he backed Bernie Sanders in the Democratic primaries. Cornel West is now running as a member of the People's Party, which was founded by a former staffer of Sanders after the 2016 election as an alternative to the two-party system. This will be the first time the party has fielded a candidate for president. According to the New Republic, the People's Party has ballot access in barely a handful of states. Dr. West is one of the nation's most recognized public intellectuals. He's a professor of philosophy and Christian practice at Union Theological Seminary. He formerly taught at Princeton and Harvard universities. He's joining us now from Irvine, California. Cornel West, welcome back to Democracy Now! It's great to have you with us. Can you talk about why you've decided to run for president of the United States?
First, Sister Amy, I want to salute you. You are an exemplar of longevity, of integrity, and consistency. And, you know, we go back many, many decades. So I just want to always begin on that note. You're putting a smile on Brother George and Sister Dorothy's face, your precious parents. But no, my announcement of running for President of the United States to be head of the empire to help dismantle it in such a way that poor and working people would be at the very center, at the very core of our vision of what a good society actually is. It has to do, as you can imagine, with these very bleak times, these very desperate times. So it's a kind of act of desperation. You know, I'm 70 years old. I've been at this for 55 years, and I have a calling that flows out of the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. and Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel and Edward Said and Chief Joseph and Dorothy Day and Grace Lee Boggs and Louisa Marino. All of those are the best of America. And I think we're at such a low point that America needs to be reintroduced to its best. And its best has always been the movements for justice, the struggles for freedom, the solidarity based on a fundamental commitment to the dignity of those Sly Stone calls everyday people. And there's no doubt in my mind that the two-party system now is a major impediment for the empowerment of poor and working people. I'm thoroughly convinced that, of course, the neo-fascist Republican Party has already made it very clear that they're tied to big business and big military, big tech and so forth. And the milquetoast neoliberal Democratic Party strikes me as being incapable of taking seriously the fundamental needs of poor and working people, not just here, but around the world. The militarism abroad, $7 billion frozen for the brothers and sisters in Afghanistan, and what's been AFRICOM in Africa, and what's been going on in the Middle East. Thank God that you keep track of the precious Palestinian brothers and sisters and all the hell that they're catching. You have it every day, and I thank God that you do. Why? Because Palestinian peoples deserve to have a visibility in terms of their suffering and ways in which they can attempt to get out from under. Same would be true, of course, for our Jewish brothers and sisters in a Russia or in a France where their rights are being violated. We're wrestling with organized greed. We're wrestling with institutionalized hatred. We saw that with our precious gay brothers and lesbian sisters and queer siblings in the earlier report. But it's also a matter of routinized indifference. There's an indifference to the plight of the vulnerable. More and more, it's becoming not just a fad and a fashion, it's becoming a normalized way of life. And that is what leads toward wholesale fascism, not just here, but in other parts of the world. And we've seen it, of course, in Hungary. You see it, we saw it in Brazil. We can go on in this regard. So for me, it's really a matter of trying to be consistent with what I've been about for the last 55 years.
Cornel, you talk about militarism. I want to ask you about Russia's invasion of Ukraine. In March of last year, you told The New Yorker, "We must try to stop the war, recognizing that the American empire has little or no moral authority when it comes to violation of international law and the overthrow of national sovereignty, as in Latin America, the Middle East, and Asia." You've also called Putin, you've been severely critical of President Putin for the invasion. Talk about your views on what happened, what is happening, and how the war needs to end.
Well, one, I think you have the clash of two empires. The Russian Empire is a deeply wounded empire. It's had its territory cut back. Of course, its economy is shrinking. And then you've got the American Empire, which is the most powerful empire in the history of the world. In fact, it was the 68th empire out of the 70, going back to the beginning of the human species. And so on the one hand, you have the promise of the American Empire to the elites in the Russian Empire: we will not move an inch. And within decades, 14 of the satellite countries of the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union, are part of NATO. There's missiles right on the borders and boundaries of the Russian Empire. Now, we know empires behave like empires. I mean, if there's missiles in Canada and Mexico, the U.S. government would blow them to smithereens quick. We saw it in Cuba in 1962. So that empires behave like empires. They're greedy. They're driven by predatory capitalist dispositions. They're obsessed with hierarchy.
I think that's enough to start a
With
discussion.
domination and conquest. The Alexander the Great.
Yeah, thanks for playing that. Mshinda, what do you think about Cornel running for president and his issues that he's bringing up?
Well, first of all, I respect the fact that he has his own mind. At least that's the way I see it. And he's bold and able to, speak what he sees as truth. Now, as it relates to running for president, I mean, again, that's his prerogative. I don't have any, as it relates to Democrats and Republicans and so forth. I think that he'll be he's a third party, contestant, and he won't win. It's not set up for him to win. So I think the fact that he expands his platform, as far as what he's talking about, I think he speaks many truths to many things. So I have nothing but respect for him. I mean, I could come up probably with some negative things, but we don't all agree on everything. But I think he's a very intelligent guy that's, putting out some information that's, well needed. It's just a matter of getting people to listen to what he's got to say. I know he's a proponent. He has a Marxist background, a socialist background. A lot of people frown on that, but most people don't even understand what that is. Understand the dynamics of it. So, but again, as far as him running for president, hey, more power to him. Will I vote for him? Who knows? I've been known to. It just depends on that. When I see what's in the field, I'll cast a vote. But I'm not impressed with anybody so far that's up there that's in the races. Haven't been for some time. So. But I just like the fact that he's putting out some real information that he's a scholar. He's a scholar. He's a teacher. He's a professor. So he teaches people, and I've learned a lot from him over the last 30 years. So it's all good. So, but I don't have anything else to say about Cornel West.
Okay. Linda, what do you think about Cornell running for president of the United States?
Now, why did I know you were gonna call on me? I just think it's interesting, and I'm living and I'm learning and
Okay.
listening.
All right. So you don't have no perspective.
No, I'm not. No, I do not yet because I need to learn more about and listen more.
Okay. What about you, Rashaki?
Yeah, I've been listening to Cornel West for some years now, and pretty good commentary. Like Brother Mshinda said, I don't agree with everything, but he's I would be more apt to listen to him than most. So I will continue to see what's going on with him. See, even if they even let him in debates, I don't know if they're gonna recognize him too much for the main platform, but I'm interested to see what happens.
Well, question. There's a lot of black Democrats saying that he's a spoiler. Anybody have a position on that? That
What do
he's
you
just
mean?
gonna
What does that
he's
mean?
gonna, he's going to take votes away from the Democratic Biden or whoever the Democratic nominee is. A lot of black people that follow him will vote for him, even as a write-in if you don't make it into all the states. From that standpoint, in response to that criticism.
Hey, free. He can do what he want to do. If he wants to run, let him run. If you believe in the Constitution, somebody can run, let him run. He has a lot of valid things to say. He's speaking truth. Of course, like you say, got Joe Biden in there. I've never been a fan of Joe Biden ever, but it's like the lesser of the evils. Um, Donald Trump, he's still trying to present himself, and it's like, come on, so like I say, it can have some impact, some grave impact on a lot of things. Don't get me wrong. If you're not a Trump supporter, you know what I mean. If you're a
Mm.
Democrat, if you're a Democrat and you support Democrats, then it's definitely can have an impact on that. It can. As far as when it comes down, but again, it's all about electoral college. At least that's what it's supposed to be. Popular vote. It's all about who the electoral college is going to pick. They're not going to pick Cornel West, that's for sure. But like I say, at this point in the game, he's a well-needed voice, in the equation. But now, if it takes votes from somebody and somebody foolish get in there, hey, that's the way it went down. Most people don't vote anyway. So not to be negative, it's the reality. So like I say, but I just hope in the end that whoever gets in there, do what they're supposed to do. But we haven't seen that in a long. I don't know. I don't remember seeing it in years. I don't. As far as it affects Black people, the impact of Black people, the community, what's going on in our communities and the change that's needed and the sponsorship of programs and things for our children. I I haven't seen a president and I don't know when the last time I seen one, to be honest, that's really for the people. So Cornel West appears to be for the people, common sense and a lot of other things. So I'm saying is, because the other folks haven't talked like that. You don't hear nobody talking like that. I'm being bringing real talk. They hide behind something else. So hey, so I get what you're saying as far as taking votes, but you know, I don't know. Like I say,
What about you, Linda? You think he could be a spoiler, or you think that it's good that he's running?
I think it's good that he's running, and I don't agree with what he said, but I think it's good. Like I said, I'm listening and learning, and I want him to stay in there as long as he can.
Okay, yeah, that's good. What about you, Rashaki?
I think the brother should run, and the repercussions of him running, we have to live with it. If it takes away votes from the Democratic Party, so be it. We have to wake up and become more, we got to get more educated and start dealing with this issue of basically mental illness. You look at all the other candidates, how mentally sane are they, especially Donald Trump? So, we couldn't stop Donald Trump from getting in there the first time. And if he's on the ballot, and if the charges against him, the indictments, don't affect his ability to run, we got to deal with it. We got to deal with what's in front of us. So whoever's saying that, okay, it's just talking points. Okay, fine. We need to wake up.
Okay. Well, like Mshinda said, Rashaki and Linda, he has the right to run. Everybody who meets the qualifications have a right to run. And like Rashaki said, look at some of the people that's running. There's a man been impeached twice by the Congress. He's been indicted twice. He's been lost major lawsuits that caused in court where he had to pay out money for his university, and now for Stormy Daniels, and now they found his corporation, his nonprofit was found guilty. They had to pay a lot of money, but people are still voting for him, and he's still the front runner of the Democratic Party. So Cornell definitely has the right to run. Second, people always talk about they need a third party. The People's Party is a good name. I'm not familiar with it, but I'd like to get some more information on who formed it and who's members of it, and and things of this nature. When you run in your party, you in a primary, and the primary is generally when you run against people in your party. And so the Republicans run against Republicans. That's who's running against Donald Trump in their primaries in the various states. And then, but when you, like Angela Davis and Eldridge Cleaver and Dick Gregory all ran for president on different parties. And then Shirley Chisholm ran for the Democratic nomination. Angela Davis ran for president from the Freedom Party, which is a socialist party. So, but he does have the right to run, and those are very good things. Second, he showed the commitment to the people by his participation in demonstrations for the people. As he said, he wants to run for the poor and the working people, and so he's not only just popping up to run for notoriety. He has a history of arguing for the poor people and the oppressed people in the world. He talked about Palestine. He talked about Asia. He talked about all those things where, as he said, people with power want more power. It's just a greed thing. And so, like you say, he's critiquing, much like Paul Robeson and Marcus Garvey and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They critique America, but America spends millions of dollars every year promoting patriotism, talking points about how great the country is, but he wants to criticize it for its being a purveyor of exploitation of smaller countries. And then at the same time, so he do show a commitment to the people. And he have no allegiance or involvement with major corporations and rich PACs that political party PACs that spend billions of dollars on controlling the president and the lower level governments like Supreme, not lower level, but the various three-party system. And so he's coming up with really a poor people's campaign. And hopefully that, like you said, that he don't, that the people don't respond to the concept that he's a spoiler, that they take him serious. But, you know, he's into, I know Cordell, he's a lot of fun to be around, but, you know, he deep in the jazz, he always use music as an example. You know, but we'll see how the African-American community responds. What about the next topic is the voting rights bill that was passed, that the Supreme Court upheld Section 2, that you can't draw what they call gerrymandering lines to give your party or your candidate unequal opportunity to get elected and blocks other people by splitting their districts so it dilutes their party, much like they've done in Watts and Compton and things of that nature. But this was a major accomplishment because two of the conservative justices on the Supreme Court, the head of the justices and Kavanaugh, the one that they're accused of having sexual issues and other issues, but he still got on, and he's a Trump nominee. But they joined with the liberals, as they say, and passed the that the Section 2 of the Voting Rights Bill of 1965, which says you cannot draw up districts and split up minority districts just to keep really white people in power. So, Mshinda, this deeply affects you from the standpoint of the South. What do you think about that voting rights bill? We want to give credit to the people, NAACP, and all the groups that filed suit and got up to the Supreme Court. Go ahead, Mshinda.
Well, I mean, yeah, it definitely has the potential of being far-reaching into other states, you know, including Louisiana and other states that are up against, you know, the disenfranchisement of Black people. You know, the Voting Rights Act, you know, is under attack. So I was very shocked that, you know, Chief Justice Roberts and Kavanaugh and all those guys, that, you know, that show you how serious, I mean, for them to vote, you know, to interpret it as such, it showed you, you know, where we're at, you know, that even they know that that's wrong. You know, usually they would side politically and like they've been doing, you know. So it's not like they found a sense of integrity or something like that to a certain degree. And maybe they have, you know, maybe they, you know, starting to realize some things. Who knows? Like, I'm not a mind reader, but at the end of the day, for those two to support, you know, and go against, you know, that particular, you know, like you say, the gerrymandering and you know, the disenfranchisement of Black people, I thought that was a huge victory for us. And it's like I say, it could have a far-reaching effect in many states and also uh, allow us to attain seats in the House, you know, and because it's a very tight situation in our government. So as far, you know, so from that regard, you know, because I mean, of course, I've never voted Republican in my life. I've always voted Democrat. You know, that's just how I was raised, and even beyond when, you know, my parents' thinking. I picked the lesser of the evils, I call it. And so at the end of the day, but when it comes to us being able to cast our vote, just like Brother West can put his name in the race. He has that right to do that, and I think he has his reasons for great reasons to do that. Whether anybody likes it or not. I think he so just so we should be able to vote. Vote for whoever we want. But to have that voting power, that voting block. Based on population. What's interesting, I just was in a conversation with a young lady. She come in for the first time. I guess she's probably just guessing. I'd say she's about 40 years old, about 41 years old, about 40 years old, something like that. And she comes in and she wants to get into school. And she's been out of school a long time and she wanted to do something with herself. And so when she came in, I assisted her with filling out the admissions application online, right in the office. And so as she filled out the application, but before she did that, I was talking to her about different programs and encouraging her in different directions and talking and talking and talking and more talking. And I said, where are you from? Because I detected an accent. And she said, New York. I'm Puerto Rican. But, I knew she was a sister, but I just wanted to know, like, what flavor are you? Like, where you from? And she said, Puerto Rico. I said, yeah, okay. I said, I can detect that. I thought you were Puerto Rican. And so anyway, as she filled out the application, she got down to where it said race. And I was actually, and she wasn't that computer savvy. So I was actually clicking forward and telling her to do it, learn how to do it herself. Hey, go ahead, click here, do this. And so at that point, she had kind of did something wrong. So I took over the mouse and was clicking. And then she got down to, I said, so what you put for here? She said, oh, well, they want us to put white. I said, what? And I, of course, I'm not going to debate with her. That's her prerogative. And, I'm not at liberty to tell her what she is, but I didn't care. I said, so she said, yeah, I don't know why they tell us that, but I said, if you don't mind me saying, I said, so are you white? She said, no. I said, she said, so anyway, she got this, talking about her father is this color and this and that and whatever. I said, you're more African than you are white. I said, she said, yeah, but they want us to put white, Hispanic, I said, you know what that's all about, don't you? I said, it's all about, counting those votes, basically, in a nutshell, that census, And so anyway, I didn't get too deep with her because, like I say, I'm at work and you got people that you can have conversation with. They'll throw you under the bus. You don't know who they are. They got a lot of collaborators, as you say, Professor Rahh, and perpetrators, and So I, but at the same time, certain things I don't let pass. And we just had a discussion, and I let her talk. So it's amazing how that's set up. So it's all tied into to getting those seats in the House, that kind of thing, and also in gerrymandering the districts and things like that. So, but anyway, I think that was a good thing, that finally we got some positive news as it relates to the disenfranchisement of Black people.
Okay, good. What about you, Linda? What do you think about that vote? Or did you know about it? You there, Linda? Okay, Rashaki, you go ahead.
That's the first I'm hearing of it, and I don't know. Much as I look at Democracy Now, I'm surprised I didn't catch it. Maybe it's on the. When did it pass, Professor Rahh?
Oh no, I was trying to get my phone. Sorry about that.
What do you think about the voting right bill being upheld by the Supreme Court Section 2, which says that of the 1965 Voting Right Bill, they gutted a lot of it on the same Supreme Court, but at the same time, they upheld this section about gerrymandering. Gerrymandering is a snake, and that's where they get the name from, because it curves and wags a lot, makes a lot of curves. And
Mhm.
so that's the history of the gerrymander. Why they call it gerrymander, it's named after a snake. And there was a snakes that use it, but go ahead.
Well, I mean, what can I say after that? Wow, except you're saying the snakes still use it. All I can say, I'm learning, I'm still learning, and I know a little bit, but not enough to respond.
Okay, it's honest, good. What about you, Rashaki?
So when did it exactly pass? I wasn't privy to that.
About last week.
Last week?
Yeah.
Wow, I must have been overlooking it. But it
The
seemed,
indictment came, no, the Supreme Court ruling. They ruled on a lot of things. And no more than 2 weeks ago.
was it on like major networks? And
Of course, of course.
I don't know how I missed that, but I probably just overheard it and wasn't thinking too much about it. But sound like it's good to me that they would upheld that. Sounds good, and hopefully we
Well,
become more aware, start getting out there to vote. We have something that actually could be in our favor.
well, the Supreme Court's been under a lot of criticism for people selling their conservatism to billionaires, getting gifts. They buying Clarence Thomas' mama a house, giving his wife cash for her nonprofit, and saying don't tell nobody, and things like that. The issue is one in which this was done in Alabama, but it has far-reaching effects when other people appeal from the South, especially another way of diluting the Black vote like they did, and they said only 3/5 of Black people could vote in certain states. And that's when they said 3/5 of the men, 3/5 of a man. And so it's interesting that this will have effect on many of the states in the South. And as Mshinda said, and implied that the Republicans wouldn't have took the House without gerrymandering. McCarthy then would not be in power if it wasn't for the gerrymandering. And now, after they're in office, the Supreme Court ruled that it's unconstitutional to do that and struck down Alabama redistricting and upheld what the lower court had said, that they must redraw the line and reestablish the borders that give the Black people an opportunity to vote for Congress. That's one of the reasons they don't make D.C. a state, and they don't make Puerto Rico a state, because that means they get a senator. And, most of them will be Democratic senators. In fact, that's why they don't want immigration. It's because most immigrants tend to go toward the Democratic Party, even though a large percentage of middle class Latinos vote Republican and a large percentage of Asians. But the majority of the ones that come poor, because they get so much social assistance, that they tend to be more Democratic. So it's a beautiful thing and this was not the result of the Supreme Court having a good heart. It was a lot of struggle, protests, and lawsuits. So we have to praise the people that fought and then concede to the redistricting and gerrymandering redistricting. So that's a beautiful thing. And Alabama must redraw. And this probably will have effect on at least 12 states. And so we want to applaud that. from that standpoint of Black people. Now, in Georgia, another topic, the people stood up against the Georgia state legislature, want to build a top city, they call it, in the areas where Black people live, taking their land, about 80-some acres, to train police and other law enforcement people. And it would be right in the Black community. And there was a struggle, and the people are struggling against that. And one of the reasons they're struggling against it, there seemed to be a conservative move nationwide. There are people building police academies and police training centers, mainly in Black communities. And so in Georgia, and particularly Atlanta, this is a big issue among the people. What do you think about that, Mshinda, of the people standing up against Cop City?
Well, yeah, that's an interesting topic. That's like I say, making a I really don't even know what to say about that other than it's making it a.
You were back on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just saying, I know the public, they form a referendum on it. They don't want, they feel like I guess that land used to be a prison farm, and then now they want to make it a training center for policemen. And with all this going on, not just with George Floyd, but all of police brutality, and then you want to come in here and use this as a training ground. And Atlanta's a Black city, and so you got a lot of people that's just. But I'm again, I guess they said for fire services, fire training, cop training, but really, what the underlying situation is, a lot of people think that they're just trying to, like I say, train up, you know, a militaristic police force to, to police the area, and so with all the things that's been going on with the police, it's just not a popular topic, so, um, so, I don't know. The cops have in this country, the cops in this country haven't had a great reputation. Where I grew up, of course, cops down here, the cops, a lot of areas don't have great reputations. They use a lot of unnecessary force and brutality. And here it is, in right in your backyard. They want to build a training ground. People was talking about defunding the police. That was a huge topic. Defund the police department. And now you're not going to defund it. You want to fund it, $90 million complex, and so you can train soldiers to police your streets. And so I think that if you're gonna do something like that, you got to have a component in there that where it can prove to the people that you're not trying to be the military in the streets, that you just trying to protect citizens and do good. But that just sounds too perfect. That sounds too good. So I don't trust those kind of projects, and that's money that's being spent. Somebody's spending some money, like I say, $90 million for construction, and you know, I don't know. It's a lot going on. So I'm done with that topic. I hope that if they build it, something good come out of it. But as well as I do that it's been a lot of bad things come out of these departments.
Yeah. And you're correct on that, Mshinda. What about you, Linda? You got relatives in Atlanta.
Oh, yes, I have many relatives, but I have no comment again.
Okay. What about you, Rashaki?
How fitting, Rahh, that they want to do something like that. And if it was a farmer prison, how fitting, train these guys up in the Black community, and that there will be clashes, and it's easy access for police to come out there and do what they do. But I think it's not a good place to have it right in the Black community because of the history with police misconduct. So no, I don't agree with it. I'm glad the people are standing up, and they need to stand up.
Well, they're standing up and they're doing some serious protesting down there. The other issue that you raised is that this is a critical position that the people say, you can build it somewhere else. You could expand the already training center. Why you got to move and take 80 acres from the Black in the area where many Black people live and cause all the confusion. And then it's supposed to be the people's right to protest against those things. But, they're imposing it. In other words, generally, like if you was going to open up a mental care facility in your home for, let's say, people with mental problems or alcoholism, you have to get permission from all the people in the neighborhood or let them know so they can voice their opposition. If you want to set up a boys' home, is that right, Mshinda?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they do. Of course, studies, but yeah, a lot of it goes before the council. I know they were in this town, they were proposing a methadone clinic. You got a lot of heroin going on in the world these days, and so one of the things is, but they put it to a vote, and they voted down the methadone clinic. And a lot of people, there were a lot of proponents and a lot of opponents, and the proponents, the opponents won, because it was more conservative vote, that turned out that said no, which the clinics could have helped people, I mean, I guess, to a certain degree, but one drug for another drug, of course. But so, yeah, they've always put a lot of things to a vote, but then some people, they arbitrarily do what they try to do what they want to do, through I don't know what body voted on that. If it was the county, the county board of supervisors or whatever. I'm not sure, but a lot of I don't know, because a lot of white folks will be on the board of supervisors, and that might have been a county move. I'm not sure, or a state move. I'm not sure where the funding's coming from. I don't know that much about it in that regard, but yeah, they put those things to a vote.
But they didn't do that, and that's why the people are raising hell. Got another issue. Then we're gonna close on a good note. But this lady Susan Larez, she shot this sister named Ajika Owens. Ajika's 35. She's the mother of 4 children. They had an ongoing dispute. This white lady was always jamming people, and she threw some at her kids, at Jika's kids, or Miss Owens' kids. And Miss Owens went to talk to her, knocked on the door and kept knocking on the door. The lady shot through the door and killed her. And they didn't arrest the lady right away, but through serious protests and challenges. Now she's trying to say she feared for her life, and it happened in Florida, and it's a stand the ground argument. So how you feel about that, Mshinda?
Well, just like we were talking about, the Chief Justices Robert and Kavanaugh, conservatives voting for, against that redistricting. I mean, voting for the better, for, toward the good for Black folks, put it that way. Um, that sheriff, he even said himself, who that sheriff in that Ocala, Florida area, even he said that, I mean, and he was probably a Trumper and was a very conservative guy. He's a proponent for stand your ground law, but he said this wasn't stand your ground. This was, he felt like, I don't want to misquote him, but it was illegal what she did. I don't know if he called it murder, second degree murder. I know she's being charged with second degree murder. And my understanding that there's a little something in the law where they don't arrest you right away on a circumstance like this. I guess because of the stand your ground law exists, they have to get more facts. I guess before they somebody say, hey, they might not take you in right away. It's something to that effect. But anyway, yeah, I was shocked that even the sheriff even agreed that this wasn't right. So kids out there playing. You know what I mean? Got the iPad out there. They out there skating. The kids report that she threw skates at us, and they took my iPad. And the 9-year-old went and told his mama, mama, the lady's tripping in so many words. And mama just goes over there to knock on the door to see what her problem is. They say it was an iron door. It wasn't. She probably got one of them Ring doorbells or something. Probably got a camera. She and the kid standing right with her and shot her. Killed her. So I don't know. It's she's trying to get by with it, but I hope and I don't think, but I hope she don't get away with this because that's sad, man. The kids are left without a mom, and there's been accounts where they say the woman was racist and or making comments, and it was an apartment complex or something. It was a neutral ground, common area where these kids play. And the lady, she might complain, when I was a kid running around, kids, get off my grass or whatever. Although this was not that situation, this was a mutual area. But like I say, it's a sad day in over there in Ocala, Florida, and I hope they bring justice against this woman, and put her away for life because she don't deserve to be around.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. We got to look at that, but the struggle continue. What about you, Rashaki? Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I heard about it. And if the lady was in fear of her life and she had a bar door and all of that, all she had to do was call the police. And,
Yeah,
and could have did it that way. But to just straight shoot, I don't know what the lady could have said to deserve that. That was heinous. Like they all are, most of them. So got a long way to go.
struggle continues. Struggle continues. It's a challenge, but I agree with everything Mshinda said. That the lady had too many options as far as stand your ground, and the lady was not like a threat with a door and an iron gate door in front of her and a door. So, I'm just grateful that the people stood up and made them arrest her. So that's a good thing. All right, we're gonna end on Tina Turner. Mshinda, she made her transition. She went through a lot. I just wanted to get y'all opinion of her contributions as an artist, award-winning artist, and your memories of it. So Mshinda, you remember Tina Turner at all? Ike and Tina and all that.
What love got to do with
Yeah,
it? But, you said some good things, man. Tina Turner, you know, and I think, well, I can't say most can attest, but you know, growing up, listening to Tina Turner, being introduced to Tina Turner, Ike and Tina Turner. And we know Ike, Ike was pretty wild. He was a wild guy. And there's some accounts where he abused Tina and those kind of things. And but very talented. I think Ike was on them drugs bad and was tripping and those kind of things. But at the end of the day, as far as Tina Turner goes, I always looked up to Tina Turner because she superseded like race, like we grow up in the struggle, and she, of course, we can't tell her about any kind of struggle. She had personal struggle, and so forth, and she come from southern towns and things like that growing up, and so she's been exposed to all kind of things. But being a strong woman, going through what she went through, all the abuse and things as a woman, being broke down and kind of like that phoenix rising up again, coming out of the, and still at like my boy Rashaki turned me on the midnight, so it's a reggae group, and Rasta Man still stand, You remember that, Rashaki?
Of course.
Of course. But Tina Turner still stands. That she been through all what she been through, and in and out of the news and different movie accounts and things like that. Just following Tina Turner, it's like, man, what a resilient woman, to say the least, and a very beautiful woman. I thought she had a lot of her talent. It wasn't, I mean, she had talent. Don't get me wrong. Tina can sing and dance and do all of that, and but her music, was, just she had her own style. That's what I'm saying. She had her own style. Nobody was like Tina Turner, and she was very well respected. The white folks loved her. I think she married a couple of white dudes or whatever. That's her business. And but at the end of the day, I think her going overseas, kind of like Josephine Baker and them, they went over, they spent a lot of time being accepted in other areas, because, the United States is rough. Although, her situation could have been personal, like I say, dealing with relationship and all that kind of stuff, but became an international star. And I've always had pleasant thoughts about Tina Turner, never met her. I wish I would have met her just to say hello to her, but but I was very taken back a little bit when I heard she passed away. Just like, of course, Harry Belafonte and Jim Brown and the rest of the folks that passed away recently, but Tina was she was good people out
Okay, what about you, Rashaki?
One word, Rahh. Energy. Plenty of it.
Well,
Energy.
well, Tina really represents a unique aspect of Black womanism. She was born an anime bullet, and I discovered her. But she grew up like Aretha singing in the church. And yeah, everyone talk about Ike abused her, but there would be no Tina without Ike. I remember back in the early 60s, first of all, I met Ike and Tina. And matter of fact, their son came up to the Black Studies Department. And when my wife was doing bail bonds, Ike Jr. got in jail. Her bail bond company bailed him out. But he came to my house once, Ike Jr. But I met Ike and Tina at a club in Long Beach where they were performing in the 60s. There was a club right there where Pacific Coast and Lakewood Circle is. And we went up there, me and I took some brothers with me. I can't remember who all went. I think my singing group. And so, we're doing wild things backstage, And so, anyway, Tina said she wanted to be known for resilience, as somebody mentioned that term. And then they talked about many artists loved Tina. She was an open act for a lot of white artists and a lot of major black groups. Because her show was so high energy, as Rashaki said. I mean, I went to Santa Monica to see him. I went to, a number of places to see him and hang out. And the beautiful thing about her was, I remember back in the early 60s, we danced to You Wanna, when they were Ike and Tina. You know it's gonna work out fine. And you're just a fool, you know you're in love. Those were records that we partied on. I was coming up in the early 60s. Then she went through abuse, and she provided a role model for women that are in an abusive relationship. And she said, look, I just wanted to let them know that you can get out of that relationship and then ascend and do better. You don't have to stay in it feeling like you are helpless and hopeless. So she did a lot with regard to expanding the realm of success after being in a very abusive relationship. But you also got to give credit to Ike a little bit, because he wrote a lot of the songs and he played on them. And even though he was screwing all the Ikettes and everything where he could party with, and he was on drugs, heavy. He was on drugs so hard he had a hole in his nose from snorting cocaine up in the back nostril. And then, you know, he started hanging out with Shaka Khan for a little while. But the beautiful thing about Tina is that she did rise, and she took care, in the beginning, she took care of Ike's kids. He had kids before they had their child. And so she took them in, and she took care of them. And when they got in trouble, she sent them money. She provided a lot of support for them, even though she went out the country, and they started talking about she's singing crossover music. But like Mshinda said, she brought something to rock and roll and crossover music. She brought Tina to them, because wherever she performed, they still wanted her to sing Queen Mary, you know, rolling down the hill, and no matter what. So her signature song was that. So we want to say, we wish Tina the best and thank her for all the good she brought in the world, and hope that she has ascended to be with the ancestors and sit in the circle of the righteous and sit at the table of the do-gooders and be happy, and that she would always be remembered through her music, but also through her strength and character. Rashaki, what's happening Wednesday?
We have Brother CB coming on, and he wants to ask Professor Amun-Ra questions. He wants you basically to compare and contrast probably the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, up into the present time. I don't know, that might be a tall task, but he wants to pick your brain, Professor Rahh. So that's a brother that's coming on.
I lived the 60s, I lived the 70s, I lived the 80s, I lived the 90s, and I lived the 20s so far. You know?
So that should be a treat for us. Professor Rahh they're gonna pick your brain, Professor Rahh. I don't know if there's more than one person coming on, but Brother CB will be here to do that.
All right. Mshinda, you have a great day. You have a great day, brother. You know, man,
Hey.
you do, yeah. Everything's good. And hopefully we'll get this thing together on Wednesday. I'll let you know about next Monday. Oh, we didn't get a chance to go over and talk about the indictment. And that's going to be on our topic next Monday.
All
Trump
right.
indictment. how it affects Black people.
Okay. So each one teach one, Conscious Corner, and we're gonna close. Have a good evening.
All right, brother.